Yeah. Hey, we have. Good afternoon, Sanjam.
Hi
How are you?
Chirag.
Hi.
Good afternoon,
Good to see
Chirag.
you.
I'm well. Thank you so much for
Uh,
inviting me.
how's everything? It's been really pleasure to have you here in this session.
It's entirely my honor to be here. Thank you, Chirag.
And so many congratulations on the successful event you had just last couple of weeks back of Maritime Sheeo. I think
Yes.
we
Thank you
have
so much.
seen the kind of support and appreciation you've received from across everybody across the globe. So proud of you, Sanjam.
Thank you, Chirag. Thank you so much. Really, your best wishes mean a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, it takes a lot of efforts into putting down such kind of a huge event. And unfortunately, I was not in India that time. That I would have attended your event as well. But nevertheless, looking forward to this session today and learning from you as well. You know. So in the meanwhile, I'll just introduce Ms. Sanjam Sahi Gupta. Actually, she needs no introduction, but still, I would just like to mention that she has been a very big friend of ISWAN. She is a leading advocate for women, and she established Maritime Sheeo in 2019. And today it's reaching great heights. A lot of encouragement, lots of motivation she's getting in IMO, WMU. She's been also on the board of WMU, the World Maritime University. I think the only Indian there on the executive board, Sanjam, and along with
First,
Dr. Malini Shankar, ma'am. The first Indian. Yeah, that's correct.
yeah,
Yeah, so
from the
it's
private
so,
sector,
so proud
we've
moment.
had,
Correct.
yeah.
Really, really so proud of you. And we're looking forward to this discussions today. She has won several accolades, maritime awards, different awards like one of Sandwick Awards, Gender Award in 2018 for excellent work she did on the corporate policy. And then she also has been doing a lot of work with different shipping companies like Anglo Eastern and ISWAN on gender diversity booklets and handbooks for the seafarers. Excellent work she's been doing across, to improve the awareness and the sensitization among seafarers on gender diversity. And just now, I think we are good to go now. And Sanjam, with your permission, can we start the session, please?
Yes, sure.
Thank you so much. Okay, so again, welcome, Sanjam, into this session. And this is a kind of a talk show where we try to engage with our senior members from the industry and to tell young seafarers, budding seafarers, and also the younger generation about, give them a bit of more sensitization about different topics that are more relevant to them. In the past, we did a bit of workshops around mental and physical well-being of seafarers. We did workshops around abandonment, uh, the fake agents who are recruiting seafarers. We have people from the ITF coming in. We have people from the PNI clubs coming in and giving the guidance to the seafarers on their daily, what are the good practices that they need to follow in their general life, so that they can avoid or minimize such kind of challenges on that they face. And today, I think this topic is very, very central. This is all there in our hearts about gender diversity. And my question is, right straight on the topic is like, why is the shipping industry still dominated by men? We are in our 21st century now.
All right. So, though your voice was actually lagging a bit, but you wanted to know why the
Okay,
industry is still dominated by men.
that's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So, it's really sad, but we're in 2022 and we still see that the industry is dominated by men. And though I think that there has been a huge improvement over the last 20 years or so, where I see a lot more women in the industry today. But one of the reasons is that I think the industry needs to be more welcoming towards women. And second is that we need to create the image of the industry where women want to join the industry. So a lot of times women don't know that the industry is a place where they can thrive, they can join, they can thrive, they can succeed. So one is that we need to send the message out there. We need to promote our role models and tell the women out there that yes, this is this career opportunity within maritime. And the second step would be, and that time the maritime industry would need to be welcoming to these women. So these two things, I think, are not happening as successfully as we want it to. And that's why the industry today is still dominated by men.
Now, definitely, if you look at some other industries, where in some of the industries the women are dominating, in fact, by men, probably, but at shipping has been historically been dominated by men, and I think things are changing, no doubt, as you rightly said, things are changing, and I think we will hopefully reach that level where women also represents a larger workforce, as well as sea, as well as onshore. I'm sure with the initiatives that you have taken, the things will definitely yield more results in the next coming months and years. Sanjay, my next question for you is, like, can seafarers be more accepting of the gender? It's becoming, as you said, more and more women are getting accepted on nowadays, and they're going on board ship, but still, we see that the sense diversity, it may be appealing in our hearts. It may be that some seafarers put some likes on social media that yes, it's good, gender diversity is good, but on reality, if you look at the seafarers still face a lot of discrimination and challenges on board, especially in terms of their employment opportunities. How do you see all this in the practical side?
So Chirag, that is unfortunately the reality today, that there is a lot of harassment. So the survey that was done by ISWAN, Anglo Eastern, and Vista International together. So we did that survey, and the findings really spoke volumes about what kind of harassment takes place there. So clearly, I'm not saying it happens everywhere, but clearly the ships are not being welcoming enough for women, and there is a discrimination that's taking place on board. So I think it's a lot to do with the mindset of other people, the mindset of the seafarers, the male seafarers that are there. I think we need to have a zero tolerance policy towards discrimination, any sort of discrimination. It isn't, I'm not only saying sexual discrimination, but any sort of discrimination, we need to have a zero tolerance. And I think it all starts with the mindset change. And that's why it's important to have gender sensitization courses. I think, and this is something that the government of India is working towards. And very soon we're going to have a circular that they will come up with, that they are going to be proposing a mandatory course on gender sensitization. But I think that is key, because that's the mindset that needs to be changed. And I think there should be very stringent procedures against harassment. So against the perpetrator. So they should know that if they really cross those lines, that they will suffer the consequences. So I think these two things need to be done.
Absolutely. No, I think that's very relevant what you mentioned just now, Sanjam. And I think the next question is, like, how can seafarers and the shipping industry as a whole become a bit more inclusive? We're talking about not only the women seafarers, but also if you look at the inclusivity, or they feel that they are part of the industry, they are part of this thing, and half the world they feel acknowledged, and there's a long overdue task which are there basically to complete all this work. It's not easy to challenge the existing mindset, what you just mentioned about. It's difficult to take those steps. So how do you see that what can be done around how to make a bit more inclusive this environment?
So as I mentioned, that the DG Shipping is proposing a mandatory course in gender sensitization, which is great. But on the other hand, I think what we all need to do is, I think each of us is part of the industry, right? So if each of us make that effort, and that if the industry is not going to change, it's not going to change overnight. And who makes up the industry? It's people like you and me, Chirag, who make up the industry. It's people like our viewers who are actually attending today who make up the industry. So unless each and every one of us, so I think the buck stops here. We need to stop expecting somebody else to do something. I think if each one of us say that we're going to make our industry a better place, we are going to make sure that this is what I said earlier also, not on my watch. If all of us swear that not on my watch, we're not going to let anything happen on our watch, then automatically the change will be faster. I agree, we need to have policies, we need to have mandatory courses, but unless we ourselves, the buck stops here and we each of us say, not on my watch, unless that happens, then that the pace will accelerate and the industry will change, it will become more inclusive and better for everybody, right? Better for you, better for me, better for everybody. So when we know it's better for everybody, why can't we change? Why can't we use that attitude?
Absolutely. I think uh, this is something which I think it always hurts me when we hear the stories, the unfortunate stories when the women seafarer they face harassment and bullying on board and the kind of issues they face. And some of these issues we have jointly worked on as well. And I think it's a bit of a situation where it's a shame that these things our colleague has to face on board who is there with us for doing their professional work, and they still have to face that particular challenge. And people on board sometimes become reluctant or maybe negligence is the key or something, or maybe just ignorant of the issues. They don't want to see what is really happening on board and just don't want to address the particular thing, and that really hurts. And I know that how many times you have raised in different platforms about, you have spoken about it, and we've heard about it. So I think it's a bit of situation where we always feel challenged that what else, what should we do more. But as you rightly said that, I heard you saying some many times that we should bringing these things in our at home as well, right from when they're young children. We should start giving them this kind of education right at the
Yes,
school levels, not till
yes,
they come in the college level, to give them that about respecting women and giving them
yes,
the due opportunities or the equal opportunities. So I think, uh, would you like to say, because I really like that, that thing from what you say.
yeah,
It's really so nice of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. So,
And
Chirag, we come from a patriarchal society, right? And I think some what our upbringing is so important, right? So as the mother of a 15-year-old son, I think that the responsibility lies with me on how I bring him up, on how he respects women. And I think for each of us, our upbringing, what we learn at home actually comes out and reflects in the workplace. And I think that this not only at home but also schools, because that's where the children are the most impressionable. So one, at home, it's so important that in society that despite living in a patriarchal society, I think everybody is modern enough and very educated today. I think people should be educating. The onus always I keep hearing is teach your daughters, but I think that's wrong. I think we have to teach our sons to respect the daughters, and that's important because I think we've taught our daughters enough, right? We always constantly tell them, be careful. I was at the Maersk event and somebody was saying the female seafarers have to be sensitized that they need to be careful. And I said, why? Okay, no, stop putting the blame on the women. The onus stops on the woman. Why? It has to be on everybody. And I'm not saying that male seafarers don't get bullied, they don't get harassed. They do too. So it's about being kind and it's about being respectful to everybody around you. I think it's important, irrespective of your gender. It's not okay to harass somebody, it's not okay to bully somebody. I think what COVID has taught us, Chirag, COVID has taught us to be kind to each other, right? It really has taught us that it's so important to be kind. And it makes such an impact. I think if each person is kind, it makes a huge impact. So I think let's start by just respecting each other, being kind to each other. And there's such simple things, right? They don't require any major moving of major, milestones or anything. But these small, simple things make a huge difference. And I saw a question that came up on the chat, that why is, women are harassed in corporate workplaces too. Well, that's also wrong. But what makes it worse is when women are on the ship, is that they are isolated, right? You are away from home. When you're working in a corporate office, you get to go home at the end of every day where you can reflect and you have support. When you're at sea and you're at sea for a long time, you are away from family, you're away from any sort of a support system. That's what makes it different, and that's what makes it harder and more difficult.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Sanjay. That you said that the first thing starts at home, and I think it's the kind of education or awareness that we provide to our children, and tomorrow they will have a sense of responsibility when they. And I think it's all for both of them. You know, the male and female. We're not just talking about only one particular gender here. We are talking about the gender diversity. So in which the male respects the female, and the females itself also, they do equal respect to the male as well. And so with that, uh, are there any other you want to add, any good practices that the crew should follow on board ship, in terms of making sure that there is good diversity on board, and there is inclusivity, implementation of the inclusivity is there on board. So any other good practices that you think that the seafarers should do on board?
So I think all the practices actually will come automatically, the good practices, if there is enough respect and acceptance. I think that's important, because then automatically the best practices follow. But yes, I think it's important that the ship should be ready to receive women. So I was working with one shipping company that put 2 women on board their ships a couple of years back, and those women left in a very short time, because suddenly you cannot decide to just put women on board a vessel without sensitizing the rest of the crew. So I think, one, the ships should be prepared, right? If especially it's a crew that has never seen women who have sailed, I think it's important to prepare them that yes, now women are going to be part of the team, that they're going to be coming in, and you cannot blame them because they've never worked with women. So it's important to give them that sort of benefit of the doubt, that sensitization, that sort of understanding, where they need to sit down and they need to be told that yes, the women are going to be joining, and they're going to be as probably on par as your other co-workers. So I think that's important. The ships need to be ready to receive the women, and then women need to be placed on board the ships. I think that is key to going ahead, because otherwise, you how do you end up blaming the crew that has never seen a woman on board, and they have probably never seen a woman in any of these roles before. So I think that's key. That preparedness is key to anything. And then I see that if people are prepared, then it'll lead to the best practices automatically.
I'm sure, definitely. And I think, to my understanding, good leadership on board plays a role in ensuring that seafarers are sensitized, and they've been, whenever a seafarer joins on board, people are, as you might rightly said, that they are made aware of the practices, the good practices that they need to do. So how do you think in your terms about the leadership role on board, and does that is a challenge, because some of the leaderships, they have never worked with the women on board in their entire careers, and they see now women coming on board, and they do you see that as a challenge coming in your work right now?
So I think it depends, right? Who's in the leadership position. So I think there are certain leaders, right? There are the captains of the ships who are really open, right? And I think our industry is one which is a global industry, where after sailing, people are exposed to so many different cultures. So actually, I see that the seafarers, are some of the most open-minded people, because they have traveled the world, right? They have seen the world in so many different cultures. So I see that in most cases that the leadership is very accepting of the women, right? And they're accepting of the women seafarers that are coming on board because they have seen the world. And I think when you're sailing with multinational crews, you are also learn to be more tolerant. So I think yes, in a lot of cases, I think the leadership is great. It's fantastic. And it's important to have those leaders because they will lead the example, right, with the rest of the crew. But sadly, in the cases of a few cases where the leadership itself is not accepting, then no matter if the crew wants to accept, then nothing can be done. So I think, Chirag, it's person to person. You can't generalize it.
Yeah. Okay. No, definitely. There are also excellent captains, masters, and even other seafarers who have done excellent work for promoting gender diversity on board. And I think there are leading examples for that. And that's where, we always advise seafarers to have good leadership, skills when you're becoming. It's not just like you have good experience of being a master and then you can be promoted, but equally it's important that you understand the other person's emotions and the respect their cultures and inclusivity as well. So Sanjam, I think you have done a lot of work in Maritime Sheeo in the last since 2019 to to basically with your association with IMO and association with Vista International, been the founding in India. So please give us some initiatives that the nation has taken so far in terms of work activities that you have been doing as part of Maritime Sheeo.
Yeah. So I think one of the most important reasons, yes, I'm a business person myself. So when why is diversity important? If you're able to convince the C-suite, the leaders, that there's a business case for diversity, then automatically leaders will accept diversity. Otherwise, we all know there's a moral case for diversity, but it should be a business case too. So I think the good things that we did in COVID is that we got a grant from the Dutch consulate in Mumbai, and we actually did research on the business case for diversity, where we spoke to 102 Indian companies, and we actually tried to draw a positive correlation with a higher diverse ratio within companies and greater profits, greater productivity, greater innovation, greater teamwork. And the results were very promising. So I think that research is very important to convince people, Chirag. What happens is that not everybody believes in the moral case for diversity. So you convince them, right? If you can go to them, especially the C-suite and business owners, and you tell them that, you know what, your bottom lines are going to get better, your profits are going to get better, productivity will be better, innovation will be better, teamwork will be better. So then nobody can shy away from accepting diversity anymore. So that is one of the good studies that we've done. Another study that I'm doing currently for the United Nations ESCAP, the United Nations Economic and Social Commission. In fact, I'm going to be on Wednesday, I'm going to be in Bangkok at their headquarters presenting on World Ocean Day. We've just concluded a research which is yet to be released. It's also on women in the Asia Pacific region, understanding their current situations and to make policy recommendations to increase the number of women there. So watch for that report. It should be out soon. That will also make a lot of interesting recommendations on what should be done. That was an important study that we did with women in the Asia Pacific countries.
Absolutely. No, that's brilliant. And I think we are a bit of, it's good that you are giving us this information on this platform today, and wishing you very, very good luck for your upcoming trip to Bangkok and for the research outputs. And we are looking forward to read those outcomes and of this research study, Sanjam. I'm sure that you will have more accolades coming in for your doing this. My last
I just wanted
question
to add one more
is
thing
that,
also.
Sanjam, yes, please.
So I'm also actually working as a gender expert. And one of the projects that I worked with them was for the Bangladesh recycling industry. And there is legislation in Bangladesh where women cannot work in the ship recycling, and they wanted to overcome that, so we had to prepare a legal rational report. And believe me, I visited Bangladesh, and I visited all the shipyards there. Nobody batted an eyelid that suddenly there's a woman there. They've never seen a woman in their life. Found Bangladesh to be one of the most progressive countries, and I think that they have a great example of what they have done in the garment industries, which is dominate women. And I think that if the same example of what Bangladesh has done in the garment industry, if we can apply that to our industry as well, then there is no reason why there cannot be more women. Like you were saying, what is it that we can do? I think if you can draw parallels and learn from other industries, in this case, ready-made garment industry, I think the shipping industry can learn a lot.
No, absolutely. I totally agree that we have to learn from each other's industries, what good practices they are following. There would be challenges that they might be facing, so they can look at what shipping industry has done a lot of good work in various other fields. It's such a diverse workforce. It works in, there is no real particular ownership. When we look at the legal regime on board, I think it's always very confusing for an outsider to understand whose law applies on board. So I'm not going there, but it's such a diverse thing that we work on, and it's a very unique industry that we really love and proud to be associated with, basically. But there are there have been few cases in the past that you have worked on, especially supporting the women seafarers on board, and harassments, bullying cases. They have been coming in where that impacts a lot of on their personal levels as well, in their mental well-being. They become depressed. Sometimes they can get into the depression mode as well. All these issues when they go through in their life. Could you share some examples of how women were helped by your organization and by yourself, by your involvement as well? And what is the message that you want to give to women seafarers on board? How they can overcome these challenges? What are the good things that they can adopt to or follow up on board? So if you'd like to send a message out to the women seafarers, please.
Yeah, so I salute to all the women seafarers who've chosen this profession. I think it's wonderful that they are braving the seas and they are out there. But I think that in the cases that I have handled, some of the cases have been heartbreaking, and it has been across nationalities, where there have been a lot of cases of harassment that take place. And unfortunately, what is disheartening, or maybe why, is because there's no action taken. So they feel that justice is not received, or they complain against the nothing is done. So I think that one is that we need to empower the bystanders. The bystanders need to stand up, and when you see something going wrong near you, we need to empower the bystanders to speak up against any sort of injustice happening. Because otherwise, what happens is when there's no justice received, the body disheartened and gets depressed. And then probably many times they refuse to go back to sea again. So what can we do to prevent? We need to, each and every bystander has to be empowered, has to say, not on my watch. And if you see anything happening, you need to speak. And I think nowadays there are so many helplines. ISWAN has their helpline. Most companies have helplines where you can easily report in. I think for the women seafarers, I would like to say that you all are true heroes that are sailing the seas. All the seafarers are, for me, male or a female. But for the women, I'd like to say that you are superheroes and continue to sail the high seas. We're with you. And if all of us, Chirag, let's say it together, not on my back. If anyone is facing harassment, I'm sure if you reach out to ISWAN, and you can reach out, and we can promise you we will do our best to make sure that we make make sure that justice is received and that we all are on your side.
Absolutely. No, that's well said, Sanjam, that we are always willing to support any seafarer, whether male or female seafarers. I think some of the comments also has been made in the chat box as well by the viewers, that it's not only the women seafarers have been harassed, but even the male seafarers are also harassed on board. And I think that's where we come into that. Harassment and bullying should not be accepted at all, and it should be highly condemned at all. It impacts whether you are male or female or whatever your genders are. It impacts your entire well-being. People, we have seen seafarers when they complain to us. I'm not going to share any more detail, but they have gone through enormous, time to recover from it. They need a lot of support. And some of the good companies, they do provide good support, but sometimes it becomes extremely tough for an individual to accept the fact and to come out of that and to again, join back into shipping. They feel themselves not, been supported many a times. And that is where the organizations like Vista International, Maritime Sheeo comes in. IWSF is something, Maritime Union of India, Women Wing is there. I think there are a lot of organizations already available here for the women, and also for ISWAN as a general helpline for seafarers across the globe to come and approach us, discuss your issues, and we will try our level best to try and guide you, to try and help you out in your difficult situations. I think that brings me to the end of this session, Sanjam. But if you have anything before we take up any questions.
No, I'm good. Thanks, Chirag.
Okay, right. So I think I'll just look at the questions somehow. We cannot. I think Pankaj Mishra has put up that point. I think you have already mentioned there that we cannot entirely blame the shipping industry for lack of women seafarers. There is a larger role played by our society, where it has not been accepted by the society at home to send women at sea. And I think that's been there. That's the stigma out there, that women seafarers, even the parents are not comfortable to send women out there. So any comments from your end, Sanjam, on this particular?
I think that's why the greater awareness we need to, as an industry, we need to spread awareness about the career opportunities, as I mentioned in the start. Only when these opportunities are there, I remember 2 or 3 days back, one lady told me that her, in fact, my son's classmate's mother, that her daughter really wants to sail. But she said, oh, it's not safe for women, so I don't think I'm going to allow her. I think that one is that we need to make the industry safer. And two, we need to spread that awareness that yes, it's a safe and welcoming place for women. So we need to do both these things together. Only then we'll be able to attract more women, because I'm so happy to tell you, Chirag, that these days there are so many companies who come to me and say, we want to hire women, but we can't find them. So, we need to get that pipeline. We need to create that pipeline of women seafarers. So that's why we need to make the industry welcoming, and we need to send the message out there that this is a great profession and women really need to join.
Sure. Thank you, Sanjam. And I think I'll take this one last question for the day. It's what steps have been taken by Maritime Sheeo for the employment of women in maritime sector, especially the women seafarers? Are you? I think you have been doing a lot of advocacy with the shipping companies, but I would like you to come and respond to it.
Yeah. So what we've been trying to do is create a lot of awareness. We ran our Smashing Stereotypes campaign as well, that Mr. or Mrs. Call Me Captain. People who follow us on Instagram on Maritime Sheeo can see the campaign. So I think what we're trying to do is, one, create a lot of awareness, and two, what we're also trying to do is make sure that whoever reaches out to us, we always connect them to different ship owners. You're most welcome to connect with us. We'll make sure that we'll connect you with ship owners who want to hire women. And because there are so many ship owners these days who come up to us and tell us that they're not able to find women, so we really want the women seafarers to be connected to these companies who want to promote and who want to support women.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a lot of work has been done in that areas. Thank you very much, Sanjam, for your so nice of you that you have given us such, it was such a lightning to see that you came in this session and bring in a lot of positive energies to these questions, which are, sometimes it becomes extremely difficult to tackle. But then I think we are so proud that you such amazing work and keeping the Indian shipping industry's flag high, and for the women, they're
Thank you.
more hopeful to be there, to be protected and safer now in the maritime industry. I think, yes, there are a lot of steps needs to be taken by entire industry, but I think you're leading those things. So big congratulations to you, Sanjam, for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chirag, and thank you to ISWAN and you to having me here today. It's always a pleasure to be associated with ISWAN, and I think together we can really make the industry a wonderful place for everybody.
Absolutely. No, it is a wonderful. I've been sailing. I've sailed for 10 years, not much, but then I always feel that going back to sailing some one day, but I do not know when. But really, it's so lovely to be part of the shipping industry and to have met with you and so many other people. So thank you very much, Sanjam, for coming out for such a valuable time. I know how much busy you are. You're here for time with us. So thank you so much and have a good day and lovely week ahead in your travels.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chirag. Thank you to the viewers who tuned in. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. Stay tuned for the next session. Till then, bye.